when is this going to air for people that want to watch the
Uh,
full thing? They want to see
this
your reactions and they want to see our reactions. When is
Yeah,
this going to air?
we'll air this on Friday.
Okay, good. On Friday.
On Leadership to Wealth, a podcast on YouTube.
All right. So check it out, guys. You're just gonna get my. Just put it. I just threw it on live, but they'll hear you, but they won't be able to see you. So they'll just get a little.
Okay.
They get half the content right now.
They
just
get the behind the scenes.
Yeah, they get behind the scenes. But yeah, so when I shaved my head, it was a bit nostalgic because I looked in the mirror and then I remembered like everything. Like it was so weird, right? It was so like it was like it brought me back to my old self, and I remember like the mindset, and then you start thinking about, whoa, the growth, right? Like, you know, 20 years ago, and I showed you that TikTok of me 20 years ago, and what I was like, and it's funny because you don't even notice yourself. You don't even know, like, it's like little things that you do every day that add up at the end of the day, right? And what happens is you don't notice, you like, if you go to the gym today every single day, you might not notice you might not notice all the results and all the growth and all the healthy body and everything. But then you go back, if you do that consistently for 2 years, you can look back and say, whoa, look where I was 2 years ago, right? So it's really crazy from that perspective.
Yeah. Well, glad to have you on the show, and obviously we had you on last year, and so much growth for you. Maybe not in hair, but but we're glad to have you on here, and so you're a real estate investor. You've had a clothing company. You had your first child really young. I mean, there's a lot of different parts that we're going to get into. And you've been around and stood the test of time, so to say. And so I think there's a lot of value that we can get from hearing your story. So let's just start into it a little bit about, now you're this massive real estate investor and public speaker that, okay, maybe COVID doesn't allow you to go out and speak as often as you did previously.
But now we're doing it virtually.
That's right. Yeah. Now anybody can
now
see you,
now we're connecting with more people, than we ever have before, using the technology, the access to technology that we have.
Yeah. And so where are you connecting with people the most right now?
I would have to say through social media, right? So, I was doing my social media thing before COVID, but I've 10x'd it for sure. The everyday posting, I'm on live right now. People are watching me right now. There's people on here. There's actually like 4 people on my live right now. I'm just been more present in my social media. I used to look at it like a chore, but now I've really taken it. I've really taken it as a vehicle to connect with more and more people. Obviously, every time I do a podcast with someone like you, I get to connect with their audience, right?
Yeah.
And I've never done as many podcasts as I've done in the past year, right? So it definitely, the reach is more, right, than ever before.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And that makes sense because so many people are on social media, even more so than they were a year ago or the year before that. Like, because we've been in COVID lockdown, so many people have been forced to get their social connection through social media. And so even people that didn't like it before, hey, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I think, there's this idea that we're losing that social aspect because of COVID, right? Like we're losing the human to human interaction. And I think it's the opposite. You see, like we met during COVID. Like we met
Yeah.
on Zoom, and we ran.
Yeah.
You invited me to your show, and then we did the show. It was on Zoom. Then we had
Yeah.
multiple different interactions, and we did multiple different Zooms. We
Yeah.
would have never done that if it was real life. And
Yeah.
so, as a result, when we actually did meet each other physically, the hug was stronger. You
Yeah.
see?
It's true.
Yeah. So
It's
I
true.
think we're more social now than ever
Yeah.
before. I think, and we're more present. I think because it's like it was new and everybody, it's like, people are doing Zooms with their families more than they saw their families before.
Yeah.
So I think the interaction increased because of this technology. So you see, there's always a silver lining, right?
Yeah. It's true, actually. We are spending more time with family than we ever did before, just by bringing the laptop and bringing it to the dinner table and contacting my sister and her family, and we're having supper together.
Yeah, we
And
we had the
it just as
technology.
chaotic.
Yeah, and we had the technology before, which is funny
Yeah.
to do that,
Yeah.
but we never did. Right, like we never utilized that
Yeah.
technology in order to make connections. Like if we were back in the early 1900s, with the Spanish flu, it was difficult. I mean, you would literally not be able to have any contact with your family, right? And people went into isolation, and it was there was quarantining. Like there was some similar aspects to what we're going through now versus that Spanish flu. But now we have technology, right? And with technology, right now I am in Saskatoon, right? I know that at 11 I had to meet you, right? And
Yeah.
I can jump on here, interact with you, and we're in different time zones. We're completely at the other end of I'm at the other end of the country, but we can still connect. I can see you. I mean, there's something very disconnecting about a telephone conversation, right?
Yeah.
But now it's there.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you this, because now that we have all of this access, um, and I think for us, it's definitely allowing us to connect more than ever before. But what I'm hearing is a sentiment that for younger people, they're feeling disconnected, even though they would be more familiar with social media. Can you say something about that?
Yeah, so I don't have much. Obviously, I can only go on my own experience. Last year, March. So my youngest daughter, my youngest daughter is going into high school, and September of last year. This would be her first year of high school. And then we had, obviously March came about, and we had all the COVID, and things were shut down, schools were shut down, and she said, Dad, I want to do school online. I said, yeah, you're gonna have to. No, she said, no, indefinitely. Like I want to do it like my whole high school online. Now, in my mind, I thought like, whew, what about the social aspect that she's going to be missing out? But I started thinking about like what high school meant to me, and I'm just looking at her situation from my perspective. I'm not even taking her perspective into consideration. This is something that she wanted to do, and so I said, okay, let's go for it. And the result was her marks got better. I mean, think about school, for example. They go to school. Kids are going to school now, 9 to 3, 5 days a week. Okay, that's the average school time. Some are like 8 to 2 or whatever. But like, how much of that time at school is actually learning, and how much of it is wasting time, like just filling in the time, right? And the what we realized with COVID is that the system it's an outdated system that hasn't caught up to our live our life today, right? And so what happens for younger people, that's my from my perspective, is that they can be more connected online. Now, there is some young people like myself. I would have to say I would fall into that group where I would feel a little bit lost just because I feel, and this is just the way I'm putting myself into a 15-year-old's shoes, right? I didn't do good in school while I was going to school. I don't think I would have the discipline to be able to do school online. So I don't think it's one size fits all, but I think we should move into a different way of living that is more suitable to lifestyle, so people can have a better lifestyle. Is it important to go to work 9 to 5, right? So that is changing, right? We realize that with COVID, 9 to 5 is no longer 9 to 5, 7 days a week. That's a whole that we're moving away from that as a result of COVID. And so if the
Mhm.
kids are in school, because before they were in school 9 to 3, in training, so they get used to going to an institution for a certain amount of time. So they would go 9 to 3. When get out, they would get out in the real world is 9 to 5, right? But this is not the world that they're going to be going into. Like we know that already. We know
Mhm.
that the world of earning an income is going to change. It's
Mhm.
going to morph. I
Yeah.
don't know what it's going to look like.
Would you go to school now, university or college? If you were back again, would you go to university or college now?
I would not. I would not. I would not. I didn't go to the first time. I didn't go.
What
I didn't go the first time. But I,
would
I,
you
I
would you
actually.
tell would you tell kids to go to university or college now?
It really depends on the individual. So I'll give you an example. I had people reach out because of my presence on YouTube, and people reach out all the time through social media, and they're like, can we connect? I said, let's jump on a Zoom. I don't know who I'm talking. Like, I really can't see the picture. I don't look through their profile. I just end up on the Zoom call, and then often I'll see a young person. A young person on the other side. It's like, oh, like he's kind of young. Like he wants to know about real estate. I'm not. I don't know where he's at. And so I get a lot of young people, and they're like, Alfonso, I watch you every day. You're an entrepreneur. And so there's this young person. We'll keep out his name, but he's in university, and he's like, Alfonso, I watch you every day. I want to be in real estate. And uh, I guess if I say if I say what it is, he's gonna know. But it's all right. He'll know. He's an aerospace engineer, third year, 1 year to go, right? And he asked me the question. I want to be a real estate entrepreneur. Should I quit school and just do that? Because I don't like what I'm doing. And so my response was instant. I'm like, don't you dare, right? You got 1 year to go. I mean, if you were at the starting line and you say, I want to be an aerospace engineer, and you ask me that question, and I would say, are you interested in that? And you would say no. I would say, well, probably it's not the best way to go. But you already did 3 years. The market value of a human being will be more in the world if they have a degree, right? And so if you're doing nothing, it's not, I don't, and this is what I told my own daughter. Like, if you have nothing to do, go to school. If the education you're getting is specific to what the career is going to be, go to school. If you're gonna wander around the world, okay, that's good. Get some life experience, but go come back and work and do something, right? Like, don't do
I-
anything, right? You have to have a plan.
Is it because you want them to have a fallback in case real estate doesn't work for them?
No, not necessarily. I mean, you even even in a situation where you're having a dinner party with other high level investors, high net worth investors, and you just happen to drop that you have a degree, you're an engineer, you know, your market value is it automatically goes up, right? But you shouldn't be going to school for that market value, is what I'm saying. But if you already did the 3 years and you have 1 year to go, suck it up, right? Suck it up, get it done, and then go and do whatever it is that you want to do with your life, right? Now,
Yeah.
the having a backup plan. I mean, I'm not a big believer in that. It's either you go to school for a reason. I don't think kids should go to school just to play around and go to Frosh Week or whatever, which is primarily what young people want to do, right? There is value in education. There's lots of value in education, but I think it should be an individual journey for everyone, starting in elementary, right? Because what happens is in school they're prepping you. You're getting prepped to, you know, you're gonna go to your college university, then you're gonna get yourself a job. And for I think the majority of people, that's a good path. But there's going to be individuals that don't fit in that mold, that don't fit in that journey, and there's no alternate journey for that individual. And that's why I've started the Quadra Youth Foundation, is just to give an insight to young people on what else is out there for them, right? Can they can they start a business at 17? Absolutely. I did, right? I started a business at 17. Can they own real estate at 17? Absolutely, right? Can they have a career and own real estate? Absolutely, right? Should they go to university? Depends on the individual, right? If it fits if it fits the goals and where they're going, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what the problem is, where people get disconnected, is that there's no alternate path, right? It's not like it's not like, okay, you take this other path of being creative, right? And that path, it leads you to podcasting. It could lead you to drawing, fashion, music. It's an alternate path, and that path of being creative, in essence, are skill sets that you need in order to become an entrepreneur. And so that path could be clear, and they could be like, okay, you start working at a company as an intern, and then you get set up, you do a business plan, you can start your own company. Like there's no clear path for someone that wants to take action right away versus someone that is willing to wait all the way up until 25 to start earning income. You know, which
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, if you go to university and you just take, if you were to take the meat and potatoes of 4 years of the things that you're actually going to learn in your university, getting your university degree, you take the meat and potatoes. I'm sure it wouldn't even be 6 months, right, of the real hardcore, like, meat and potatoes of what you actually need. The rest is just filling in time, right?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I would say that there's probably a lot of that in college and university, where you're filling in because so many youth are going to these institutions to try to figure out what they want to do, as opposed to, hey, this is what I want to do. So a lot of the schools have had to give sort of a smorgasbord, like a
Yeah.
buffet. Choose, here's a whole bunch of choices, and choose what it is that you like, almost like those books back in the day, choose your own adventure. But let me ask, so I mean, you were 17, you started a business, and you started a clothing business back then, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Could you do that again in
I
this
could,
current
I
market?
definitely, it would be different. It would look a lot
Yeah.
different, right? But I definitely could do it. I think there's more resources to be able to do that, right? Like we
Yeah.
needed brick and mortar, and
What would you do differently if you had to do it over again in this current market?
I would definitely go
you're
out build.
17, you're in high school, and
Uh,
you're you.
yeah, so I would definitely use the network. I mean, young people are amazing at building their network and
Mhm.
using social media. So those are assets. People don't really talk about. When a young person is engaged in TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, like when they're doing these things, they're building digital assets. People don't look at a social media account as a digital asset. What I see is that you have access to people. And when you have access to people, this is now your network. Now, most people choose to just, throw up memes, cool little TikTok dances, but then there's people that can sell to those people. Those people can be converted into your customer. They already know you, they like you, they follow you. And so now more than ever, it's getting easier for younger people to be entrepreneurial. And so if I was starting today, if I was 17 years old today, I would jump on social media, Instagram, TikTok, and I would be selling products.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you sell?
um, well, I would probably sell. I
You'd
would.
sell sunglasses and cologne, wouldn't you?
I would probably sell other people's products.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because in my day and age, you had to source out the product. You had to physically have it in your hand, and then you had to go find yourself a customer to sell that product to.
Right.
Now, you don't even need to source out the product. There's other people that can source out the product. There's other people
Yeah.
that can do the research. There's other people that can do, research and development and create the product. So you can now use your asset, your digital asset, which is the audience that you have, and simply connect the two where you're the manufacturer can actually send the product directly to your customer, so you don't even have to own the product. And that's what I would do if I was starting right now at 17.
Okay, I have a funny story to tell you. I was now that we've opened up a little bit and summertime, you can actually go outside and be around people semi. I overheard this conversation, and I think the girl was talking to her boyfriend, and she was with the friend. So two teenage girls, and one of them's talking to her boyfriend, and the boyfriend says that he wants to start. And I actually thought of you. It's funny. He wanted to start a clothing business because he wants to have stores all over the place. And the two teenage girls were talking about wanting to start a clothing business, but they wanted to do everything online. And so it's part of the reason that you could hear them, because they were having this argument. And but this boyfriend was adamant about he wanted to have these clothing stores. And I thought of you. What would you say to something like that?
I would say that there's no limit to what someone could do, right?
Yeah.
So I was fortunate enough to I was born in the 70s. I was a child during the 80s, and then I was a teenager during the 90s, right?
Yeah.
In my view, it's like it couldn't have been planned better than that, right? Like I think I grew up, and every generation is going to probably think the same thing about how they were, like when they were born or whatnot. But I love it because I was there for the birth of hip hop, you know, and I
Yes.
was so passionate about hip hop that ultimately what led me to fashion was the fact that there's only certain things that you could do. I mean, I wasn't a good rapper. I tried, like
We all tried. We all tried.
I just wasn't agile enough to be a breakdancer, and so there's only a few things that I could do. I wasn't a beatboxer, it didn't work out,
Cut
but
some beats.
but what I saw was an opening in the fashion industry, right? Everybody and their grandmother said it's not going to work. Hip hop is a fad. People don't shop in where I started, Ottawa. People don't shop in Ottawa. There's no market. all of the things, right? And I'm like, that those are the reasons why I should open, right? And so when you hear someone like that, he wants to have a physical location in a world where there is no physical that physical location is kind of passe. Who am I to say that it is or it isn't, right? Maybe he can create an experience because that's what the world it needs today. I don't know where his mind is at. I definitely wouldn't discourage it, right? I would say
Mhm.
look into it more. And I would say it's got to be an experience, right? Like behind you, you have some. I don't know if you drew these or where these paintings came from. Were these yours?
These, yeah, no, these are finds. I love finding paintings that other people, garage sales
Yeah,
and things like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So those paintings, right? You could easily bought those online, right?
Hmm.
But you went out to a garage sale to find, like, it was like a adventure.
Yeah.
It's a journey, right? It's an
Yeah. Mind you,
experience.
it was also before COVID. So,
So I think we can't get pigeonholed in one way of doing something. That stops creativity. So to the young man in the restaurant, if he wants to open his store, do it. And what happens is you start getting better. Whatever it is that whatever the journey is, the second you start, you learn from it, and then you start getting better. And then
wow.
eventually, it's either gonna work out or it's not. Maybe they move the business to online. Who knows? But the point is, he started. He has that experience, and then now he's moving forward. Twitter was not a social media app when it started. Twitter actually was a way to interact for gamers. Gamers used to get on online and they would just have small little messages to one another, right? They could send little messages to one another. That's how Twitter started. Later, it became a social media app, and so you we don't know, like, we have no clue on where the journey is going to take someone. The point is they should start. That's the point.
Yeah, that's a great point because I have to confess that when I heard that, I thought, oh man, she needs to dump that guy because he's a dud. If he hasn't figured out that stores are gone the way of the dinosaur. But I love what you've actually created instead because, yeah, you're going to go try something and you're going to fail at it. But maybe he hits on something amazing in
Yeah.
that process. Maybe it's an experience where you're like, for us, the barber shop, and you've got the music playing in the background, and so you come in and it's a great feel, and people want that experience because everybody else just goes and buys online,
Yeah.
and so maybe he's able to create that, or maybe not, but he instead of failing, he gets the lesson out of it. And so that's a really good way to look at it, and I appreciate that because obviously I've got teenagers, so that's important for me to pick up. And okay, so what do you advise for people that are getting started? Where do you suggest? Do you suggest that they try out clothing businesses or drop shipping or all this kind of stuff? I
Yeah.
know that obviously real estate is near and dear to your heart, but where do you tell a young person to get started?
So first of all, I really encourage young people to develop the skills, right?
Okay.
That's what
What,
the
what, what do you mean by that? With the
so
develop the skills?
the Quadra Youth Foundation um, was created before COVID, right? And the idea for the foundation was that we would go and teach skill sets to young people that could better serve them in the future. So
Hmm.
entrepreneurial skill sets, leadership, sales, right? Learning how to sell, communicate, public speaking. I consider this to be public speaking, right? So the ability to get in front of a camera or a group of people and be able to share your mind or put together your thoughts in a way that the audience understands and can take action, right? These are all
Do,
amazing
do
skill
people
sets.
do kids really need to be able to sell these days? I mean, with everything online and
I think that
clickable.
I think because there's so much online, you need ways of differentiating yourself between what you're doing and everybody else, right? And that the difference is going to be the skill sets, right? You can promote something, you can market, and sure you'll get sales, but nothing is powerful as getting on a podcast, having a conversation, and telling people my key is the best key that there is. Look what this does, right? Portable, unique, one of a kind, and now in limited quantities. The link is below. You can. We have three different colors: red, blue, and yellow. Right? I mean, this is that. It's something as simple as that. A simple demonstration that already differentiates you between you and everybody else. And so
Mm-hmm.
those are skill sets that should be developed in young people that are not even talked about today.
Mm.
They're not even talked about. And so along with that, try businesses. Try the garage sales. So try the online Shopify store. Try the turning your Instagram um, into like a money machine, right? And all of the people that think about what do they need and what would they buy, right? Think about where you could get that product or service or whatever it is, and see how
Mm-hmm.
you can leverage the people that are in your Instagram or your. I know young people don't even have Facebook, but Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat, and see if you can turn it into a moneymaker, a business, right?
Just out of curiosity, do you think Facebook has gone the way of the dinosaur as well?
No, I think there's just different. There's a different audience for it, right?
Mm.
Everything has a different audience. I think Facebook is there to stay, just like LinkedIn. LinkedIn has a different audience than a Facebook audience. Maybe it's the same audience, but the way they show up there is in a very different way.
Yeah.
So I think there's room for everybody to survive, just like electricity. You know, like like
There's lots of different ways to get it.
yeah, like you can get oil. Like I mean, you can coal. Who knows? I mean, at the end of the day, you need electricity, right?
Yeah.
I think social media is it's something that is here to stay. I think it will evolve and it'll be more interactive as the years go. Um, but yeah, I think it's here to stay.
So if you started over, if you had to start over again, um, would you do real estate again?
Absolutely, I would do it earlier and more of it.
uh, can you say more about that?
Yeah, well, I would. There's a misconception that you have to wait until you're older to be able to transact in and create wealth,
Mm.
and that's a misconception. And I think if if young people can jump online and start getting educated, getting the books, having that information, they could start a lot younger acquiring assets. And I
Yeah.
would have, I mean, I bought my first property when I was 21. I didn't really
Okay.
know why I was doing it. It wasn't to create wealth. I bought it from a consumer perspective, but at least I did it right. I had a property and it was like a house and it was great. But then years later, I sold that property and I had more money in my hands than when I started than what I put into it. And so then I realized that real estate is an appreciating asset. The shoes, the jewelry, all the consumer products that are out there lose value like a vehicle. But real estate generally, historically, goes up in value and it appreciates. And so, if you can find a way as a young person to hustle your way into a property where you could, buy a bungalow or a duplex, a bungalow, turn it into a duplex. You're renting the bottom, then you're renting all the rooms, and you become, you're in essence, you've house hacked. I think that's a really great move for a young person to do, right? At a 20 or 21 years old to get into a piece of real estate.
Well, here's the thing that I would say to that. Two things. First of all, when you're 20, 21, when you're younger, you're asking yourself a couple of questions. One is, how do I make some money now? and and if you wanted to get into real estate, good luck. How in the world are they supposed to do that? Qualify for a mortgage? Any of that? You've got grown people with full salaries, two salaries, and they can't qualify for a mortgage. How in the world is someone 2021 supposed to be able to do that?
Yeah, so you gotta what I tell everybody: find a way, right?
Yeah.
You have to find a way. Just because people tell you can't or they couldn't, it doesn't mean that you can't. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so, figure out, find yourself someone that could qualify, do a joint venture with someone that has a bit of money. The thing about being young, which a lot of people, you know, when you are young yourself, you always look at being young as as a reason why you wouldn't get ahead or people won't take you seriously, right?
It's detrimental.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's the opposite, right? Like as a young person, I remember like my friends around me, like I was able to inspire people around me to work for the movement, right? And it's like when you have a group of young people and then the one person who can lead the way, a lot of other people just jump on board, right? Because they're like, okay, this seems like this guy knows where he's going. And so, I remember even with my first business, I had friends that would come and work just to just be around work. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And they would come and help me build the store and do a lot of things. And no one's asking for money. We didn't have any money. And so I could get away with that when I was 19, 20. I can't get away with that now. Anybody that comes around, everybody wants to get paid, right? I'm a grown ass man, right? No one's gonna say, okay, we're gonna work for the vision. People want to get paid. Also, when you're young, older people sometimes want to root for you, right? They're gonna go above and beyond to make sure that you get that opportunity. And I'll give you an example. I remember being 23 years old, sitting at the kitchen table with a older gentleman and his wife, and the objective of that meeting was I was going to buy their property. Okay. And I was 23, 24 years old, and I went like verbal diarrhea on the guy. Like I told him where I had been, like my entire story, how I was homeless at one time, then I became a young father, changed my life, and started a business. Unfortunately, the economy was not working. I almost went bankrupt, but didn't. But now I'm rebuilding and bigger and better. And my vision is to create wealth through real estate. Right. And he's like, whoa, young man, you're how old are you? 23. I'm like, yeah, I'm 23. He's like, whoa, you remind me of myself. And And you know what he said to me? I wish my son was like you. That's what he said to me. And so he was, I was able to create a transaction, a creative transaction, where I had seller financing, full support, with guidance and mentorship from this guy that didn't even know me, right? But he was just impressed that I was a young man fighting and trying to make something happen. That's a luxury that I don't have today.
Yeah.
No one's gonna give me a shot, Like, I'm a grown ass man, you know what I mean? Like, get your own shot, So uh, those are some of the things that I think they're a huge advantage of youth and time. This is what I would say to a young person: go for it. You can go high risk, high reward now as a young person versus me. I can't go extremely high risk. You know what I mean? It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but I got a mortgage, I got kids, I got responsibilities. When you're 20 years old, you can fail. Like, that is one of the biggest benefits to being young. You can fail, get up, fail again. You can take extreme risks, and the consequences are not as harsh as when you are old, with mortgage, married, kids, car payments, all that stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. At that same period that you were talking about when you were young and starting a business and that, I remember I was in a gang at the time, and very, very close to becoming a drug dealer. Quite honestly, that was I remember that there was no one that could teach you, or that was going to teach us about how to make money in real estate. At that time we didn't. You were like, I don't know, what are we going to do? And we know we want to make money, but we just didn't have any idea of how that would actually take place. And most of the jobs that were around at that point in time, you just thought, well, I don't know how to get that job, or what, because no one in my family had ever done anything like that, coming over as immigrants. And luckily that I didn't go down that road, but in terms of high risk, absolutely. But you went through some interesting times. Did you ever get wrapped up into any of those things, into being in a gang or any of that kind of
Yeah,
stuff when
yeah.
you were younger?
Well, absolutely. Like, the thing about growing up in the inner city and being an immigrant specifically,
Yeah.
because I can only speak to that experience, right? So you come into this country, and you don't really fit in, right? You're you don't really fit in, and what happens is you tend to gravitate towards the people that are just like you, right? Um, I remember, like, my mom couldn't afford hockey, right? Like, my mom couldn't afford like sports, and we would only play basketball. You know what I mean? Because one person has to have a basketball. We don't need all equipment. You know what I mean? So we played basketball and soccer, and it my experience was it tended to be a lot of immigrant uh, people, right? That would play those sports, and then what happens? You start building these bonds, and because we come here and we leave our our families back home, and now uh, these group of kids now become the new family, right? This is like, and I remember being 15 years old. I would die for you, man. You know, and that was the attitude that we would have back then, because it's like
Yeah.
you stick together, right? Um, the problem was that I didn't understand, and this is what we teach young people in in the foundation, is that if you show me your friends, I'm going to show you your future, right? And what happens is there was those kids that were taking that path, the good path. I remember there was kids in my community that were on that good path, But for whatever reason, that didn't seem appealing to me, right? It's like someone that's studious, someone that goes to school, and then there was these other kids that would hang out at the basketball court, and that was more attractive to me at 14 years old because it was like easier path, right? And in my mind is like, okay, like, if we all get together, we're stronger, we can do more things. And in essence, those are the key things of running a company, right? You get people together, you become a
Yeah.
leader. And so I just think there was, like, we go back to the what I was saying before. There's no alternative path to
Mm.
someone that wants to have a different journey than just going down the studious journey of going to university, getting a
Oh,
job after,
a- absolutely. Like I remember for us, it was okay. There's this group over here. They've already got money,
Yeah,
and so their parents have got houses, cars, whatever. We didn't. We're living in these apartment buildings that weren't really well taken care of. We didn't have a basketball hoop. We used to paint a square on the wall, side of a wall. So you'd shoot at that. Anyways, that was ghetto. Anyways, but I remember what you're talking about here in the sense that we thought everybody's against us, right? We
yeah,
can't. How in the world are we going to do that, right? So we banded together, and I like what you said about show me your friends and I'll show you your future, because we only had each other, and none of us knew anything beyond that.
yeah,
And so hence the reason the greatest idea that we could come up with amongst ourselves was, hey, let's take over the local drug scene.
yeah, yeah. But if someone would have come along and said, "Listen, guys, you guys have really good skill sets that can transfer into business, right? And this is how you do it. This is how this is how you would sell a product. This is how you market a product. This is how you market yourself. This is how you communicate." A lot of the times people make bad decisions because they lack confidence.
Yeah,
Uh,
I wouldn't have trusted you if you came around and said, "Oh, here's what you need to do." We'd be like, "Who's this guy?"
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Trying to
yeah.
tell us
Well, the thing
what
is that
he's
you
trying
gotta
to take from
you
us.
have to. That path is not. There is no path, right? So it's just like you can't have one person just jump in and just say, "Hey, this is where I'm going to take you." You start by giving people the skill sets, right? The sales, the marketing, communication, public speaking. When I was on the streets, I had no confidence in myself. Zero. Zero. I had zero confidence in myself. I thought I was going to die by the time I was 20. And if someone would have came and give me some basic skills, then I would have gained confidence over myself. And then what happens is you build self-respect, right?
Mhm.
Confidence helps you build self-respect, and you make better decisions because you know that there's a future. You have a future. But when you think you have no future, when you think there's no way, when there is no confidence, where everybody has said you're not going to amount to anything, you know, this is what happens. This is what people end up in a criminal life for forever, right? You somewhere along the line you gain confidence over yourself. You were able to articulate your thoughts. People obviously respect you, and so that changed your perspective and changed your life, changed your surroundings, changed the people, and ultimately changed your future. And
Mhm.
so the someone that is, you know at risk, and I say that with quotation marks because I believe that all young people right now are at risk. But the quote unquote at risk youth, these people, these young people, all they need is to build self-confidence, self-worth, self-respect, and you would see that lane, those people are the CEOs, the creators of products, people that are going to solve problems in our world because they did not fit the regular path that everybody's on.
I think one of the things that is a struggle right now is that everything comes so quickly. And even social media, you can get likes so easily, you can get follows, all of this kind of stuff that maybe they're not getting some of the lessons that are available to them. How do you make that transition? How would someone make that transition now to be able to say, you and I have the benefit of hindsight. I mean, I have the benefit of almost dying in a gang fight, but so that was a rude awakening to, hey, you need to make a change. But
I had my my life changing moment when I became a father.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but we don't want
So
to. It's not like we want to encourage young people to
yeah.
get in gang fights or and become teenage parents.
So yeah. So how does a young person make that transition, right? To go from, I feel like to some degree, okay, great. We got older, and so we had to start thinking differently. Or in our cases, we had life changing moments, which caused us to start thinking about it earlier. But what do you say to someone that's going, "Why would I do that? I'm having a good time."
I wouldn't. Okay, well, this is something that I believe to the core of my being is
Okay.
that the second you find a purpose, you're on your way, right? If you can find a purpose and the goal, you can have any goal, but if you have a reason why you need to achieve that goal, you become unstoppable, right? The problem with that, if when you say it out loud, it does sound cliche, right? It sounds like, yeah, find a purpose, find a why. Like you
Go get yourself a purpose.
yeah,
You got to find a purpose in life.
and so I think for young people, and we're talking, if we're going to talk about young people that are specifically uh, um, that are not on that traditional path, right? Because you have young people that are on that traditional path, and maybe they don't want to be there, but they don't see any other. There's no other alternatives, but they're there, right? So you know, it's safe to say that they're going to be there for a very long time. But if we're talking about specifically the people that are off that path, that are, you know, are got into trouble, or they for whatever reason school doesn't jive with them or whatnot, I would say those skills, those young people need to develop skills first. Specific skills that are going to talk to their strengths, right? Everybody is got some skill in something, right? Whether you can draw, you're creative, or there's something. Let's find that, whatever that is, and let's focus on that and make sure that you become the best at whatever that is, right? At the same time, we're going to sprinkle it with some public speaking, some getting out there, learning how to sell, learning how to start a business. I think if you can put a young person on that path, eventually they're going to find something that really resonates with them, and they will find a purpose. They will find a purpose within whatever it is that they're doing. But it's hard to say to someone, "Hey, you got to get a if you have a why, you're going to be unstoppable," because hard for someone to fathom having a kid. And we're not saying that you need to have a kid. We're saying the second you find your purpose in life, you're on the right path. You're on the right journey for your entire life. But to get to that point, I think it's confidence, self-worth, self-respect first. And you have to build the skill sets, right? You have to build the skill set. You have to get educated in the right way, right? And educated with business, real estate, whatever it is that's going to resonate with that young person. And I'm going to say more entrepreneurial things would resonate with someone that they don't feel that they fit in that traditional path.
Wow, that's actually a really interesting point. I actually feel that a lot of people are afraid uh, to tell someone that, look, it's all right to fail. It's okay for you to fail. It's okay for you to be confused. It's okay for you not to know what to do next. Go do something anyways.
Yeah.
And I think what you're talking about here with regards to getting these skills, I've noticed that you've not said go take this job. You said get these skills.
Yeah. The skills,
And I think
the skills will result in the job. The job, the business, like the skill. I think the skills builds the confidence,
Right.
and the confidence is what you need in order to be on the right track. Because if there is no confidence, especially in this day and age, where things are moving so fast, and some young people are being left behind, you'll find that and I don't know this for sure. Okay, so I'm making an assumption here. I want to be clear that I'm making an assumption here. But in hindsight, when you look back, you will see suicide rates will probably have gone up, right? I'm making an assumption. I don't know that for sure. I don't have any statistics. And the reason I think I believe that is because um, a lot of young people are being left behind. The skills that they're being taught in the traditional path are no longer they're not helping young people with building the confidence that they need. And so when you have low confidence, low self-worth, low self-respect, and then you have social media and people cyberbullying and all that, I think you'll have some really depressed young people that you know the result of that, obviously, it's either like you get on drugs, or you go down the wrong path, or you end up having suicidal thoughts. And this is something that we should look at. Again, these are assumptions that I'm making, but I think it starts with building a young person's confidence, and the way you do that is through skills like public speaking. If you can get up in front of a group of people, you don't have to be the smartest. You don't have to be the smartest. But if you can get up in front of a group of people, in front of a camera, in front of an audience, and speak your mind, your market value in the world goes up, right? And that builds confidence. And with that type of confidence, you can do anything.
Wow. Yeah. And I think that's a powerful message that needs to be put out there. Build those skills. It creates confidence, and with confidence, you can achieve anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really surprised that they don't teach public speaking starting in elementary school, right? Like it needs to be a course, right? Should be like an ongoing course for the rest of your life,
Well, you know what? I've got kids in school, and one of the things that, well, obviously not in school right now, but one of the things that you'll remember that we used to do is you'd have to go to the front of the class, and you would have to do some public speaking, maybe read your story, or depending as the grades went on, present something. And what I've seen now is that you can opt out of these things. You can actually say that you don't want to do that, or you just want to hand in the report, because we don't want to put the children on the spot, because it's very traumatizing.
I think there's two parts to that, right? So there's in that course where you would learn how to public speak, there should be how to be a proper audience member, right? And so because we're not teaching people how to listen, right? So at the same time as you're teaching someone how to talk, the audience has to be able to listen and be respectful of the person that's talking. And so what happens now, there's the kids are maybe being silly or they're laughing and they're they're maybe embarrassing the person that's up front. And so that is it's two ways how you would teach that class, right?
Okay, I think you just dropped a bomb. I'm not sure. Hang on a second here. So we we tell people to listen.
Yeah.
We don't ever actually teach them how to listen.
No.
I feel like there's something there. Holy crow! Hang on. Like we tell our kids even, hey, you got to listen.
Yeah.
But I don't know that we ever teach them how to listen, because I'm sure, like as I'm sitting here, I'm listening for the gold in what you're sharing, right? And I think one of the things that I love about listening to people is listening for their experiences, listening for the learning in behind, the tenacity, the mental shift that they had to have, all of these different things, all part of the listening.
Yeah.
As opposed to just listening for the sake of listening, because I'm supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably something that gets taught more often, as opposed to just sit there, You got to listen. You got to listen to me, as opposed to active listening or something like that. I think that's something you just taught. Do you have anything to say about listening, learning to listen?
Yeah, that's the most powerful skill that you could ever have, is learning to listen. This is why we have two ears and one mouth. We're supposed to listen twice as much as we speak. And in school, there's no we don't teach young people. This is why they would opt out, right? So going back to what you were saying before, why would a young person opt out, and why would you take away that experience from someone? Why would you let them opt out? Well, first of all, you don't want them to be embarrassed, right? And you know that someone's confidence can be shattered if a group of kids in the audience is laughing and being disrespectful when someone's speaking. And so you have to teach that to the young people just as much as you're teaching it to the person getting up. Listen, you're going to get up there and everybody's going to listen, right? Even if you stand there and say nothing, you still stood there, right? Say two words, to say one word. It's an accomplishment, right? And then next time they're going to go and say 3 words or 4 words. But it needs to be an ongoing process. So by the time they get to high school, this is a real skill set that they've developed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that builds confidence. Everything will change once you have the ability to communicate. And the best way to communicate is to learn how to listen, right? Like if you learn how to listen to people, you can communicate and structure what you're saying based on what they need or want to hear. And so listening and speaking goes hand in hand, but it's not even talked about in school. It's not even a priority.
Yeah. And it's interesting that as I'm hearing you say that, you talked about that mentor that you had when you were young, and he was so impressed with you, and he agreed to start teaching you, and you would have had to actively listen to him. You had to take on that role and to be able to learn and grow from that point. And is he still a mentor of yours now?
No, I think I lost touch with him, but I think he's passed now. We're talking about over 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, we'll have many mentors in our lives over the years, right?
Yeah.
As you go through different seasons, as you learn certain things, then move on to the next. And I think that's just part of how it goes, right? And so, wow. I think there's a lot there just about collecting skills, and learning the power of public speaking and active listening. and learning how to be a good listener just as much as being a good speaker.
Yeah.
And that's powerful. Is there anything else that you would kind of say to your younger self now, as if you wanted to pass that on to them, yourself when you were younger? Is there something you would say?
If I could go back and talk to my 16-year-old self, 17-year-old self, I would definitely say that it's going to work out.
Mm-hmm.
And the time that you are going to spend worrying about things, it's not time well spent. That's what I would say to myself.
Wow. Don't worry.
It's going to work out.
It's going to work out. Wow. Alfonso, as always, it's always a pleasure to speak with
there's
you.
There's still people on my live. I forgot that I was on this live, but there's still people on my live here.
To whether it's playing golf or watching you do that eagle. If people want to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
Well, you know what? Go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, free content, and I just want to share with the world. I think this conversation and the way this podcast was, I guess the flow of the podcast, this conversation that we just had, I think it can help a lot of people because it's very organic and it's real. We actually have Dave Shapiro here. He's been learning.
Nice.
So
nice.
That's
Love
awesome. It. Yeah. So I love it's a conversation that a lot of young people need to listen to.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think for you and I, and part of the synergy, the planning behind this is that we've both been there.
Yeah.
And we know the power in passing, knowledge on, and we know the the minefields that we had to avoid to get to be who we are now. And so, Alfonso, thank you so much for coming on the show today and for sharing your experiences, your insights. And I know if people want to, if they want to learn more about real estate investing,
subscribe to my channel or find me on TikTok.
This is your host, Neil D'Souza, Leadership from Wealth to Wealth podcast. And in the words of the great Alfonso Quadra, we'll see you.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to comment down below, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified the next time we're doing a video. And guess what? Like, share, dislike, I don't care! Let me see how that looks.